treat this whole year.
Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Backstage Pass. I'm your host, Vince Edwards. You may know me from Sound Image Productions. I also have a couple closed roadie Facebook groups, one called Death by Loadout and another one called the Backstage Pass. Here with me tonight is my dear brother and good friend, Kyle Thomas. How you doing, brother?
Not too bad, man. How about yourself?
Well, you know, I'm just living the dream. I think the only thing that I'm trying to get a handle on in life is how to get a better night's sleep. But this is a demon I've had for I don't know.
This is a constant struggle for you, man.
Yeah, I think I did.
Barney Rubble you a couple
say 4
nights.
or 5 hours in the last 48 combined. And they were real hit and miss. Phone calls coming in, open up shop, doing all kinds of stuff. It's just wacky. I don't know what it is. Before I know it, it's nothing like I'm sitting there sweating in my suit. It's not like that. It's before I know it, it's just like 6 in the morning. I'll be watching some documentary or something, and I'll go to get a glass of water and realize, oh shit, the sun's coming out. I mean, it's just like that. It's like when we were sitting in the writing room just now, and then I thought it was 6:05, and you're like, dude, it's 6:30. We got to get out there. Time just goes so fast sometimes.
I hear you, man.
Yesterday, I lost 3 whole hours. Had no clue. It went from 2:18 to a little past 5, and I came out and it was dark, and I thought, wow, man, my glasses are dirty. No, it was just dark.
That was yesterday for me. I stayed up till like 3 and had to, be down at that install pretty early,
How was how was your work today? I know you and what was it? You, Mikey, Sammy Hurley, and Derek Van Ord. How'd that go?
Oh, great, yeah. We're
Great team.
Just getting things wrapped up. Mike's been heading all the video and lighting stuff, and I've been heading the audio. Derek's been the project manager. He's been doing a great job. And Sammy's just been the juggler of everything. So
kind of the middle guy, catching things and that type of thing.
Well, it's his venue, so he has to be in place for a lot of things to make our job easier and for us to understand what's going on in the space and what they need. So it's very helpful to have somebody like that and somebody as talented as him helping us out.
Well, that's great. I'm glad it's going so well. I keep getting good reports that everybody's happy and things are going well and you guys are on time and everything's, sussing out. So I'm happy to hear.
It's just nice to be back on a job site, man. Shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
we talk about not sleeping, but it's like, yeah, I mean, you got the COVID thing going on. I'm sure people have really started to feel it where it's like, your sleep's affected. These habits have kind of built in place now over like a year just about,
Yeah, it's. I think it's like 10 months, but it feels like forever. And I know that there's certain. I was talking to one of our friends, and yesterday, and he was saying he's been similarly displaced from work for the last 9 or 10 months, and he went to do something that involved a little bit of a physicality. And he realized all of his he was looking for the word. The word was atrophy.
Yeah, right.
he hadn't used his muscles as he had normally would, and felt like he was coming up a little short or a little winded, and he had to sit himself down and said, "Yeah, man, I think before we understand and we start scheduling some stuff, I think we're going to all have to get in some kind of exercise, calisthenic kind of thing to get our shit back where it should be."
Seriously, we're going to do like a workout circle every morning and get ourselves back up the park.
Something, because
we've been staying busy, at least like me and Mikey are here almost every day.
Yeah.
Busting, and it's like it's good for me. I feel like I stay active, and like this is kind of my exercise,
I think our thing is more where I think I agree with you completely. I don't
not
think
sitting here.
I don't think our example is exactly the same as many of our friends who don't have that opportunity, or it's not as easy for them to come. I think where it's slightly the same though is the physical part. We're not filling 10 trucks today like we would normally be doing in June or July of our rock and roll season, and all the physicality that goes with that, and that kind of amplified stress and motivation that it is to do 12 hours and muscle through it. So I think we're going to have to get a little bit back into that. But here at the shop, here at Sound Image, we we prize and put a lot of value in the ongoing training. And, right now we've got the lovely Winston Dama here in the building once again doing some stuff with Bobby Scoville, with Robert Scoville. And
you know what? In the middle of the workday, I chimed up. It came up on my notifications. I logged in, and we all had a little chat before the meeting, and I listened to a lot of what he had to say. It's great. The version 7's about to come out, so it's like an excellent talking point in the next couple of months here, trying to formulate, an idea of, the new delay comp thing.
About this earlier, and you were saying, man, I'm really digging some of this stuff that it can do to help with studio quality sound and so on.
And the delay comp things, not burning a channel for an align is kind of nice, and it's all built in, and there's a lot of other things that come with that we'll have to talk about.
Conversely, from some of our other guys who are, extremely, capable and versed in that equipment, that, wow, it's super dense and packed full of stuff, and it's going to kind of like peeling an onion. It's going to take a minute, and there might be the occasional squirty gas into your eyes.
Well, they kind of took the Ableton approach with this update, and the only respect in that is they have the manual kind of built right in, where like Ableton has like a little tips thing for your DAW, where it'll tell you, how to use it and offer you a tutorial kind of thing right on the side column of it. This is just a button, and the whole, version 7 file will come up and you can browse it. So that immediate gratification that my generation has, that can't seem to pull up the manual, it's built right in now. You have no excuse.
Sweet. That's pretty damn sweet. Yeah. Well, you guys learned it, I think, a little different than we did, and that needs to be accounted for and adjusted. So, and maybe it's more intuitive and more immediate, and you can get to answers quicker. So, regardless, I love the guys over at Avid, and I think they got a great product.
Oh,
and
sure
so, like I said, we got Winston in here, Winston Dama, who's kind of, in some way, shape, or form over the last 40 years, seems to have mixed and engineered for almost everybody. When we had him on the show,
that list was incredible.
It's ridiculous. Okay, it'd be easier for me to write an introduction of who you haven't worked for than who you have, because it's such a prolific list and an amazing, and that just speaks to the character and the quality of Winston Dama. Speaking of Winston, he brought me this lovely gift from him and his lovely wife Janet. Mike, you see this thing? So it's a little mason jar. It's I'm not a holiday guy. I don't really get down like that. I celebrate birthdays of the people I love.
What did he give you there? That looks nice.
He got me a Christmas tree because he knows I wouldn't roll like that. He knows I don't do the whole Christmas tree thing.
What a sweetheart.
Check out this Christmas tree. Isn't that the cutest little tree ever? So I can't tell what the material is it's made from. Looks like something from a little train set. Yeah. I don't know. Mike, you seeing that? But it's pretty fucking happening. It's got like little ornaments and stuff on it. I gotta tell you, that's one of the cutest gifts ever. And I want to send out some love to the Dama family and Janet. That is very sweet. Thank you guys for thinking of me. Merry Christmas to you. I hope you have a wonderful holiday. And of course, we love us some Winston Dama. As I want to do a couple shout outs here real quick. My lovely wife, the woman I am crazy, madly in love with, is watching this show tonight with her mother, who's the sweetest woman. Her name is Beverly Hartnell, having dinner together and watching this show. So I want to say thanks for tuning in, and I hope you guys are having a good night. We've got a couple friends of ours that diehard loyalists that we love, we really appreciate. Pat O'Doul, Pat, my brother, we would love to have you. And Mr. Greg Shine, I would love to see Greg. Our schedule's a little wacky right now, but you are welcome here anytime. Just reach out to me, my brother, and we'll coordinate that, okay? We would love to meet. We were thinking we were going to see you yesterday, so anytime you get a chance, so you'd be more than welcome, my brother. Let's just coordinate that. And then Clint Winsley, how you doing, brother? Good to have you on the show tonight. Listen, we got all kinds of stuff. Hey, if you're watching us on, you can catch us on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitch. Our numbers are really growing up. I think our show we had with Ignacio had, last time I checked, it had 952 views, and we had a couple hundred on YouTube and a batch on Twitch. We're getting a little traction. We're having some eyes on this thing, and I'm digging it. And
cool, man. That's always good news,
right? It's kind of sweet, and that's cool. That's cool. One cuts into the other, because I always kind of use the measurement of the YouTube numbers, but looking at what Facebook Live does, it's just like knocking it out. And I kind of have a large footprint on Facebook, so it kind of makes sense.
I'm happy you're on that side of it, where it's like, Yeah, I'm like, I don't have the patience for it.
I know you're just not feeling. I get that because I have. So you're conversely, my chick's like this. She doesn't really. She's not down with Facebook other than as a slightly a minor marketing tool, but she's down with the Instagram. I don't get Instagram at all. And
See, me and Jackie,
all.
Jackie are on the same page.
No, she's my Jackie. So you just backed off.
See,
Mister.
yeah.
All right, you
I
handsome
don't know.
sucker.
I don't
You
know.
with your pretty hair. All right, don't you start with me right now.
We were talking about that earlier.
I'd like to bring the conversation full circle. We're on the hair thing, but it can be a sensitive subject, you know. Hey, if you're watching this on YouTube, though, hey, do me a favor, and if you like what we're doing, subscribe to that sucker. It helps us out. Also, go ahead and check out one of our dear friend, Jim Newhouse over at EAW. He's got a cool group called EAW Users Group. We love that group. We love that company. We think they're one of the best manufacturers in the country.
Look at the Holiday Anya setup.
I wouldn't be sitting in front of it. We didn't think there was some stuff. And again, it's a fun little page to be on. And the good people over at the Big Love Army, it's called Big Love Army. That's on Facebook. This is Lauren Allen Monroe and Rick Allen's page. It's fun. It's a sweet place to be. I put a couple things up every couple days or so just to, show I'm not a total monster. And the lighter side of things. It's a good place to go hear some positive things, look at some cool stuff. Check it out. It's a great thing. And I'm glad to see you. I'm glad you're doing well. Your eye looks better, by the way. You had the eye problem, guys. Remember that?
Oh,
poor brother's been having a little...
Yeah, it's much better. It's still aggravated. I can take the hat off, and I can look into these lights now without it being bothersome. So it's got to say something.
Well, hopefully you're on the mend. Eyes can be so tricky,
Let me tell you, don't stare at a strain relief and flick it into your eye. It's never a good time.
So you're saying maybe if you're repairing an L21. And you bust that sucker.
You nailed it.
That Hubble.
Right on the head, Vinny.
and the strain relief tries to jump out and attack you. You might want to zig or zag. Because it can.
It's funny. You always hurt yourself on something you've done like 1,000 times.
That's right.
It's like, of course, yeah. Come on.
Yeah. Well, remember I was telling you, even though my glasses, and I think let's talk about this for just a second. So we had this last night. The guests that were saying, so what's up with the glasses? Is that just for the show? I'm like, no. No, they become a part of the brand, but I wear glasses everywhere in everything I do. And I think as a result, it's helped me over the many, many years because I have a condition that makes me a little light sensitive. It's prevented me from getting more eye injuries because Lord knows I've been in this exact scenario that you're speaking of. And so it's come up and kind of clicked off of my glasses. In that moment, I was like, cool.
I'm wearing it. I'm wearing it every time I wear it now.
It's a little tricks, man. It's a little stuff that makes it happen. Listen, we got a big show for you tonight. We got a wonderful, a sweetheart of a man, a great guy. We recently worked with here in the shop, and he's just kind of a minor legend in the game for the job that he does. Let's talk about it. Tonight, our guest is a native of Washington State. He came up working for, then running a production company. He went on to be the drum tech for Heart, and he went out and did a tour with the legendary Yes. I mean, friggin' Yes. And is currently for, I want to say almost the last decade, has been the drum tech for the one and only Hall of Famer Rick Allen and the great Def Leppard. We brought him out because, first of all, he's a sweetheart, and we got him on for you. Let's talk to him. It's our good friend, Jeff Diffner. How are you, sir?
Hanging in there. That's been my stock answer for about 6 months now. Just, I'm out of bed today. That's a good sign. I didn't spend too much time on Netflix. So
I find Netflix to be lacking. I used to go to during this whole, during the little bit of free time I got, and checking out Netflix and going between that and Prime, and have just really quickly exhausted its possibilities, and have only recently, I want to say in the last month or so, have found a little bit of a home over at YouTube. Once it figures out what you like, I like to watch old episodes of Johnny Carson. I'm trying to work that whole rock and roll Johnny Carson angle, so I'm not above stealing from the god of talk shows, and history stuff and other things that are kind of in that lane. And it's kind of figured out what I like and news, and so it just lines out these things for it's pretty sweet, man.
But that's probably my go-to for the most part. I'm like you. I feel like I hit the end of Netflix and Amazon and everything else. And I've been watching a lot of like old Carol Burnett on YouTube. And then there's a show called Red Green, which is sort of like a Canadian public access weird show from the 80s and the 90s. I kind of grew up on that. I've been
It's
watching
called
a lot of
Red
that
Green?
lately. Red Green, yeah, it's the
I
Red
gotta
Green
check that
show.
out.
Oh, man.
It's pretty darn funny. Think of kind of like the Canadian version of like Home Improvement, like the Tool Man
Okay.
kind of thing.
It's
So more of a sitcom format opposed to like a sketch show
It's
thing
not.
like Kids in the Hall?
It's not a sitcom. It's like a kind of quasi.
Well,
Right.
that's because they just haven't been on the planet long enough to know what's good.
Yeah.
But, I know for a minute there we got down with the Kids in the Hall. Did you ever get into that franchise out of Canada? It's Lorne Michaels produced sketch comedy.
Not terribly. Being in Washington, we had kind of our own version of that, a show called Almost Live. They used to go on right before a Saturday Night Live, and it was the joke was called Almost Funny. It was like a half-hour show. I think it was Bill Nye the Science Guy got his start on that show. It was a sketch show, and he was actually one of the actors on there. So it was like way back, and that was kind of like my version of Kids in the Hall. Like I think I probably got more into the Kids in the Hall actors after the fact. I think when they're on, I just didn't quite get it.
Yeah. Well, it's
like certain bands, you hear them the first time, you're like, I don't know, I don't understand it. And then 10 years later, you're like, why did I not listen to this band the entire time?
Yeah. No, Canadian humor can be a little dense, a little thick to get through, and it's not dissimilar to English humor. But I think it's definitely for maybe a more mature, viewership.
Vinny doesn't
It's
like
also-
it. I watch like Letterkenny and Trailer Park Boys, and he's just like, "This is just ridiculous."
I think a lot of the Canadian stuff is also very like really regional. Like you watch like a lot of those Canadian shows, and you have to understand like Canadian politics or like local Canadian issues to really get it. Like growing up in Washington State, I mean, we were right by the border. I grew up in Ireland. Like you could see Victoria from the beach kind of thing. So I got all the Canadian radio, all the Canadian TV stations growing up. So I watch a ton of that stuff.
Very cool. Well, let me talk to you about that. I know you grew up on a small island off the Washington coast. What was it called? What was that like? Being raised on an island, for Christ's sake.
So it's San Juan Island. I always have to tell people like, no, not Puerto Rico, the other San Juan Island.
The other San Juan.
You tell people they're like, really Puerto Rico? No, opposite side. And a little town called Friday Harbor. It's basically there's a little group of islands that are just on the south side of the border from like the tip of Vancouver Island, just like right across the border. And it was great. Like, I mean, as a kid, awesome. Like nobody had locks in their houses, like at the time, I mean, it felt all safe to live there and stuff. I think once you hit 16 years old and you got a driver's license, you realize you can only drive, 20 miles. It got a little confining.
Beautiful though, I bet.
It's gorgeous. You did have that thing of like the small town thing, which a lot of people in this country have had where, like your high school, like you've known everybody since kindergarten. So, like the pecking orders were kind of established. So I grew up and I did the middle finger on the way out graduation, not literally, but, figuratively.
Sure. Very reasonable.
Yeah. It's like, you all can go to hell. I'm out here going to cities. And I spent 20 years in cities. Now I'm back in a small town again. Go figure.
Well, there's actually some logic to that. I know the little area that I spent the last 34 years prior to coming up north here, and always working out of the Bay Area and parts further. I got a little sick of the going to Home Depot to get some nails and seeing four people and have to. There's something about the anonymity of living in a bigger city and the kind of freedom of movement that. You're rarely encumbered by past relations. I don't know. I enjoy that, but at the same time, when I go down on the weekend and hang out with my girl, who I'm absolutely crazy about, it's nice too. But usually, I'm not in the city part of it. We're just in where her place is in the mountains there, and it's a nice break from the city. But I think there's something to be said for the anonymity of the larger population zones of our country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm overall pretty quiet, shy person. So like hiding in a city is good for me. But on the flip side, the lack of community can be kind of trying at times. Like I lived in LA for 8 years, and I think it was the thing that I found the hardest was that it's so spread out. There's no like really community vibe anywhere.
Yeah.
Aside from like the roadie vibe, like you hang with your roadie friends and all that stuff. But then if you're home for 2 weeks in summertime, everybody else is gone.
Yeah, that's
So
a
it
good
was,
point.
like little small towns, you at least have the option of like you do know your neighbors. Hopefully you like them. I don't know. I'm enjoying that aspect of life again, where it's a little more relaxed, a little more chill, and also just in the current insanity, it's kind of nice to be away from all the craziness.
Yeah.
I was in Portland right before things kind of kicked off, and it was just like I left that town like, oh wow, this is a pretty good time to move. Because people sort of like lost their minds. It's like I need to go somewhere a little more chill. And
Yeah, yeah. No, that all makes perfect sense. Let me do a
yeah.
quick thing, Mikey. I need a little more heat on his volume, and shout out to my dear brother Charlie Zaricki, and of course Jorge Eduardo. Hello, amigo. Let's get right into it, brother.
All right. Bring it.
How'd you get in the business, my friend?
Okay, so I guess I'll start at the beginning. I am a musician, like pretty much most people in the business.
Yeah.
I failed musician at this point. And my very, very first job at 14 years old, after I started playing guitar and bass, was building stages for like a local music festival in my hometown. So every summer I had about 6-7 weeks of the work and making like $10 an hour, which in early 90s was awesome for a kid. Putting up stages, putting up bleachers, building booths, all that kind of fun, whatnot. And as I kind of got through school, trying to figure out, how to pursue the rock and roll dreams, I ended up going off to college to work on, get a degree in music, changed about halfway through, went to a trade school and got a degree in audio production. Recording engineer thing. And through there, got a job working at like a rental house, like a rental production house in Seattle, which I figured was just basically like the stepping stone job, while I'm trying to figure, what I want to do. Cause every recording studio offered me a gig with something like they want to pay me, $1,000 a month to work 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't quite live on that.
Nobody could.
And yeah. Especially not for 80 hours a week.
Right.
And so through that job there, I ended up staying for probably 7 years. They just kept kind of bumping me up. And eventually, when I left there, I was running the place. But while working there, I ended up getting a job working for Ben Smith, who is, at the time, was Hart's drummer. So I was his studio guy for about a year, doing probably 3 or 4 sessions a week.
Wow.
I'd pick up, I'd load his kit in the recording studio. And like I was 21, 22. Somewhere there, and I would, set up a studio, load a kit in, sit with the producer, get tones. Ben would walk in, play a track, and I, pack his stuff up and leave. And about a year in, he said, "Hey, do you want to go on tour next year?" And I literally had no idea this was a job. Like it never even occurred to me this was like actually a paying gig.
Wow.
And had that reaction of like, "You want to pay me to travel?" Like I'm in, and been kind of doing it ever since. It was, I've had a few breaks from touring, little short breaks, but for the most part, I think the longest time I haven't worked in the music business was a year I spent working at a logging company when I was 19 years old, saving money to pay for school. Cause I grew up, I want to say poor, but, conservatively equipped with money. So I had to pay my way through with a lot of stuff. But yeah, I've been doing it for a while, basically.
How long do you spend with Hart?
So that's my Marco Rubio impersonation there.
I did notice that.
I was with Hart for the better part of about 10 years, I guess. 2002 to 2012. There's a little overlap with Def Leppard. I missed a couple little tours, but that was like my first real gig. So I kind of went in there, really, really green. I think when I left there, I had a pretty good handle knowing what I was doing, but I was probably there a couple years too long. There's that thing where you're like, I should probably when you start looking at everybody else and you're complaining, you realize, oh, maybe it's actually me. Like maybe I need to go. I think that was one of those jobs where there's a lot of great people, but not sort of the best combination of personalities on the crew. So I was like, I had to bail out, and then when I had a chance to get the Leopard gig, it was that was amazing.
All right, pump your brakes.
And at really nice hotels and like hotels I shouldn't have been staying at in days off, kind of thing.
Right.
So I lucked out right out of the gate. When people ask me how to get in the business, I'm like, I have no idea. It's just purely dumb luck of talking to the right guy at the right time. So.
Yeah, right place, right time. Often it is that. It's just, putting out, doing the work, being in the mix, and you get a break. I know that's not dissimilar from how me and my brother got into this. We did it just because we love being at shows and playing with the gear. But this is, punk rock days. We never envisioned we'd then go on to a studio act that went on to that producer was Eddie Money, that then went out with Eddie Money. It just kind of evolves. And so sometimes you just catch a break. I think when they ask you that question, you just tell them hard work and don't plan on getting rich. It's first one in, last one out. It's just kind of the name of the game. It's I think a lot of it.
My first like really big concert I went to was seeing Metallica, and I saw they're doing like the line check between acts and stuff like that, and I had no idea when that was, and me and my friend were probably 14 at the time, we're basically bitching of like, why isn't the band playing? What's going on? Every time some guitar player tech would walk up, play a few chords, we're like, yeah, well, that's not James. Like, just had zero concept of what anything was going on.
Wow, that's definitely different. Yeah.
Well, I grew up in a small town. There was a lot,
Yeah, I know. I got you. That's a refreshing story. And so I bet you were often very pleasantly surprised in how all this works. As it became more evident to you, and you kind of got the lay of the land. Being out with Heart, that's no small band. Lord knows they put asses in seats, and a lot of talent in that band. And tradition.
They're playing some really great shows, and they are a phenomenally good live act.
Absolutely.
They're not to talk over here, but like listening to Ann Wilson will kind of ruin you for other vocalists.
Good point.
Because she is that good. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that we had, the entire time I was there was when, we stopped doing 5 in a row. Me the last year I was like, hey, we're not gonna stop doing 4 in a row. So that was like the big concession with age, but she still just hits everything, and Nancy's the same way. The amount of talent on that stage every night.
They're true professionals. Yeah, they're absolute professionals. You can't be doing this for 40 years solid, coming out of the gate like they did with Barracuda and some of their early work that really just resonated. And, they had the look, and like you said, she can sing. She's such a delight and such a great singer. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to go wrong with him. You're not wrong. I wanted to talk to you about Yes. Yes to me is one of those, I'm a prog rock guy. I enjoy the little more complication in my music, a little more musicianship, and a couple extra notes, I guess you could say, Tool style, but Rush. Yeah. And then of course, Yes, to really bring it. And I know you, to me, that's, they're legendary. They're incomparable. What was it like your time with spinning with Yes?
So I did basically like a tour and some change with those guys. I got a call from a buddy of mine, a studio owner in Seattle. This has been, I guess, the summer of 2008. And I was out on tour. Hart was doing a tour with Journey at the time. And the guy's like, hey, I was doing a session with Alan White yesterday. He needs a tech. They're going out. And would you be interested? I'm like, the dates worked out. It was like 2 days after I got home from the other tour. Like, I'm awesome. It sounds great. And I talked to Alan the next day. Which is a little weird, never met the guy, get a phone call from, a legend on the phone.
Yeah, basically.
And he said, oh, it's we're going out to build a small tour, small drum kit, small. Alan's version of a small drum kit is massive.
That's it. And it doesn't happen with Yes.
Yeah. So we did like 16 days of rehearsals. I wasn't that familiar with their music. I was never much of a prog guy. I think grew up as more of a metal guy, but I knew enough of their stuff. You have a couple of big hits, but they were a band that I had to have a set list. And I had to mark the songs off because some of them were, 12, 13, 18 minutes. You did Close to the Edge. That's, that's a
Yeah.
long show. And long song. And the shows were, I think we started doing 3-hour shows. It was the first tour they did without John Anderson. So they had their, the YouTube singer guy kind of, thing. And, which was like good and bad, it was like, Chris Squire was the first time he had like no pushback. He was fully in charge. And so he got to do what he wanted to do. And some of that was really cool. And this, some of it was like not so cool, like the 3-hour shows, because they kind of burned their vocalists out pretty in a hurry. But
oh yeah,
it was fun. Like we had a crowd, real crowded bus. It was 13 guy, or I think it's 13 people in the crew. 12 of us were on the bus, and then they had the tour manager flew with the band. So it was a really cramped little bus, a little winter tour. Playing I think we did one show. It was in a hockey arena in Thanksgiving weekend at a college town in the middle of a snowstorm. So you can probably guess the attendance in that one. But that being said, those guys were amazing. I mean, true professionals. I mean, I saw, Chris Squire walking out there and playing for, a unfull house would be a very charitable way of putting it. And as far as the way he performed, he could have been playing for a stadium. They were really, really good. They have some crazy personalities, and there's the LD and I used to laugh quite a bit because there was a lot of Spinal Tap moments.
sure.
From what I understand, that there's a fair amount of Spinal Tap was kind of taken from Yes. I mean, like every other band says, but I think the dynamic with the singer and the guitar player was kind of based upon John Anderson, his wife, and then Chris Squire.
Right.
So there's a lot of that stuff every day you'd watch and you just smack your head and and laugh, but it was great. Unfortunately, if the second tour went out was aborted, basically a show in. Chris had a blood clot in his leg and had to go back for surgery. And it just turned into this thing where it took forever to get paid on that last one, to put it mildly. And it left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth because they kept calling me to go back. I'm like, you haven't paid me for the last one. Like, I'm not going back on tour again. I definitely I learned the value of contracts at that point.
That is a little shocking, brother.
Yeah, I don't think it wasn't. I don't think it wasn't the band. It was probably some management stuff. We basically got promised a certain thing, and then we got less than we were promised. And a lot of guys, I think I was probably the only guy who didn't go back. I think everybody else went back, but I just said, you know what, I had at that point, Heart was still, they were busy. So I was like, I'm gonna go back to my other gig. It's a safe gig. I know what I'm doing there. And yeah, I mean, it was so good sides and bad sides. I'm definitely glad I did. That was one of those gigs that it was the first gig I did with the idea of like, this will look great in a resume. If the gig was bad, which it wasn't, but it was still like, I worked for Alan White, and I said his version of a small drum kit was still at 8 through 18 with a 15-inch tom, and then a full electronic kit on top of that. And
yeah,
I learned a lot from working with him. Learned a lot of like cool drum tech techniques and tuning techniques and all that stuff from working with Alan. And he's an absolutely a total sweetheart.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had a chance to work with those guys before, but like they were real nice. I mean, when Chris passed, that was a gut punch.
Yeah,
he was such an amazing musician and a person too.
I've done racks and stacks for him. Never really from the band side of it, more from the sound exclusively side. So I never had any. I've always more just been a fan. Appreciate their sound, what they've done, what their contribution to rock and roll, and in general is. Do know a few things, not dissimilar to some of your experiences you've mentioned. Their shows can be a little thick and hard to penetrate if you're not a diehard fan.
Just a bit.
3 hours with anybody. We had this with the Dead, and we were out with the Dead back in the day and the Touch of Grey stuff. And the audience always. We do shows where there's 250,000 people. I mean, like ridiculous. Central Park and Laguna Seca Raceway with these massive 3-4 day things, and the people would just love it so much, and I just couldn't wait to leave. And regardless, and so sometimes that is part of our lot. It's what we're really being paid for is the incredible amount of hours, and we have to come at it from a kind of more of a business point. I think maybe than the business part of show business opposed to the show part of show business, but. It's a great thing to have on your resume, great experience, and I can only imagine it was pretty fun. Hang on a sec. What do we got going, Mikey?
I got it.
You good? Thank you, Mikey. All right, we had a little echo in the system. I think it's been dealt with. Hey, let's jump over to what's invariably way more interesting.
And at that point, not to go like inside baseball or anything like that, but there was some tension in the Hart camp about, you know, egos and things. And I didn't know the Leopard camp at all, but we got out there. You know, I think back up a little bit. I think any roadie who works for a band in our mind, we have the greatest band in the history of the world. Like, we work for the best band. So you walk in and go, I work for the best band. Screw the headliner. I work for the best band, kind of thing. And we all had that little chip on our shoulder of like, we should be, you know, the big rock band here. And then you go do a Leopard show and you went, oh wow, this is a whole level of amazing. But we were out there for a little while, and I started to get to know the guys in their camp and their crew, who were absolute sweethearts. And about maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks in, I'd heard rumblings that maybe their drum tech was not going to be around, for whatever reasons, you know. And I think I was kind of like thinking to myself, okay, this is, you know, I could see myself doing that gig, but I'm a fairly unambitious person career wise. I never think about going after stuff. I'm always like, maybe I was a little intimidated by it. You know, maybe I wouldn't be good at the gig. So I kind of hung back a little bit. And then about halfway through the point of the tour, so maybe a couple weeks later, we're backstage in Vegas. And what I found out was sitting with Rick and Dave Wolf, who is Vivian's guitar tech. He's been with the band for 25 years now. Yeah. And they're sitting down and, on the road cases back there, and comes up that the drum tech had booked a recording session with his band at the very end of the third leg of the tour, which is overseas. Like, he was going to miss 3 shows. So they're trying to figure out what to do, because Rick's rig, as you probably know, you can't just kind of walk in and do it. It's not a typical drum tech job. You don't tune some drums and just sit back and watch a guy play. It's a lot more involved. So they're trying to figure out, well, what the hell can we possibly do? And they're talking about maybe getting his old tech from years ago, flying him in from Helsinki, and how do we make this happen? And I'm sitting there and go, I can do it. What? It's like, well, I'm, at that point, Hart was not doing those last 3 shows. So I can learn the rig all summer long and shadow the other guy, learn the show. And then the last 3 shows, when the Hart's flying back from Australia, you guys can fly me to Japan. You'll save the band, you'll save Hart some money on the flight, and I can do the 3 shows. And I think to myself, like, this will be amazing in a resume. This is literally that was my entire thought process of, this will look good in a resume. I had no intention of doing the gig, and no intention of taking the gig. I wasn't going after the gig. I was just going, this will be good in the resume. So we come up with a plan. I get the okay from the keyboard player and the drum tech, or the drummer from Hart, who is the people I worked with. Got the okay from the production manager. Got the okay from the girls. I said, because I wasn't I said, they came back to me and said, do you want to basically do the entire last leg? Sorry, I missed a little part there. So I was going to be double dipping for a month. And that's where I had to get, okay from the rest of the band, make sure that they were okay. I said, I'm going to make sure you guys are fine, but I have to do 2 jobs, and they were fine with it. So I, from that point on, I basically would do my show and then do loadout. And I would miss generally about the half of the first song of the Leopard set, run back, and then I would do the rest of the show. For a couple of days, just kind of watching stuff, and then eventually I'm doing the changes, that I'm, running the clicks and all that stuff, and taking care of Rick. So by the time we got overseas, at that point, I'd probably done, 25, 30 shows. And then we did the overseas run. That went really, really well. Long work days for me. I was working like lighting guy work days at that point, sure, as opposed to, lazy backline guy work hours. But we did, we went over to Japan, and apparently Rick had taken a couple days where he was kind of pulling everybody aside in the camp, including one night where I couldn't find anybody, and basically everybody's out to dinner but me. And saying, hey, do you dig this guy? How does he fit in the camp? Is it not just is he good for the job, but does he fit here? and I got the thumbs up from everybody. And I guess Sav was the guy who finally gave the proper approval. So the line is, I don't really care about his skills all, but I like him. I don't think he was disparaging my skills, but he said I like him.
I don't think you would have gotten the job without his approval. I'm thinking.
No, yeah, but Sav was like the last one to go. No, this is the guy you should be hired. And Rick came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to stay?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I've been there since I think my official hire date would have been November 4th, November 3rd or 4th, 2011 was the day that like, okay, I'm staying, not going anywhere else. But I've been doing shows for a couple months prior to that, kind of like sub gig. And I've been that way ever since. It's been a wild ride. I literally went into the job with the idea of I'm just gonna sub, get a couple shows in, look great in the resume. At that point, I was ready to leave the Heart Camp. I was burned out there, to put it mildly, just personality wise with a few other crew guys. We'd hit our level of tolerance of each other, to put it mildly.
There's a saturation point that happens. That's a thing.
Yeah. And I think for a while I was like, pointing a finger at everybody else. And I looking back at things like, no, I needed to go, because a lot of people stayed, and I went, you know what, I need to do something else. So it worked out great. I'm, as I said, I'm not very ambitious. So not having to hunt for a new gig was great. Rick's kept me busy. I do a fair amount of stuff in the off season, designing new rigs, all that kind of fun stuff. And because of those guys, I've gotten to see a lot of the world, which is amazing. And then you throw the other part of the equation of I work for a great band and I work with some of my best friends, which is the big part. I would say, the crew there is amazing.
Well, I've talked to Rick about you. I didn't just reach out to you because I wanted to make sure it was cool with Rick, and we've had a couple talks about you. And he swears you're the bee's knees. I mean, he talks about you like you're a brother, and actually that's the exact term he used. Opposed to just let's say an employee. He held you in high esteem, and it's very, very cool. And is according to him, you guys together make a hell of a team, and I know that's the exact case. It's a pretty fortunate thing. I know you've got to be taking some pride in the fact that together and with Rick's incredible, really unlimited talent, just took the vote for the best drummer of the year.
Yeah, I saw that. It was it wasn't Modern Drummer. I can't remember which drum magazine that was. That was definitely a trip, though. To put it mildly.
That's a pretty great thing, and it puts him in the pantheon of some pretty amazing drummers. And what Rick has been able to do for over 40 years, and some of the things that he's had to kind of overcome to maintain at the level that he does and to become a Hall of Fame drummer, it's pretty impressive. So, I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, I don't think he gets nearly enough credit though as an actual drummer. I mean, obviously he got the award, which is awesome, but I think for the most part, the general public doesn't really know how good he is. You bring drummers out there, you bring like actual heavy hitter drummers out there, and they watch him play. And I've seen the biggest, scariest, death metal band drummer guys back there by my world in tears watching Rick play. Part of it is because it's like their childhood, but then you actually see what he's doing. And people get an idea of like how really, really good he is. I don't know if how that magazine worked at the voting, if it was, a general public popularity contest or if it was drummers voting. But it's, I've kind of thought that way since I started there was, when I really started analyzing his playing of like, he's really that good. It's very like he went from being a really, big giant drum kit to being very kind of like Charlie Watts style player, which is very like, I guess I'm here to play the song. I'm here to add accents to the song, to push and pull the vocal where needed. And he has a great understanding of that. Ben Smith was that way too, working for the Hearts drummer.
He's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, he is unreal good. And I think really unheralded as far as, the credit he gets. But he has the same brain that Rick does, which is a kind of producer mind, of the way he analyzes playing, analyzes the song, and really a big picture aspect to it, which I think is probably a lot of what made Leopard's View aside from like the verses of, you listen to the choruses, you'll find a lot of times that Joe might not be singing the lead melody in the chorus.
Oh, yeah.
And it's literally because of thing, because like, oh, on this song, Phil's voice actually sounds better for this melody in this in the chorus, or maybe Vivian and Joe will take a harmony part. It's not like an ego thing of like, no, I got to be the guy here. It's like, well, what works for the song? And I think that really that Rick, his playing has always been so much about what the for the song.
Well, I noticed when he was in the house here with you and his team doing the Big Love benefit concert, which we'll get to in a little more detail about that. But I was watching him play, and his fills, his timing. He's got a certain sensibility, about a melodic sensibility that was really coming through in that session we did here. And it's just a treat to watch him play, and he sounds great. And like you said, the man, I think he's a deeper understanding of song construction and what belongs.
Yeah.
And a lot of times in drummers, I think that it's more of a kind of a bam bam approach, like you said, and some of the metal guys, some of those guys are amazing, but there's certain drummers out there, the Jimmy Chamberlains of the world and some others that just have a certain melodic sensibility that you just can't imagine anybody else playing those parts.
Well, it's a thing of like, you look at any player, there are people who are drummers and there are people who are musicians, there are people who are, bassists and there are people who are musicians. And I think Rick's a musician. It just happens to be that his instrument is drums. But he's most definitely a musician. That's the way he approaches things. He's or artists in general. That's the way to put it.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that assessment. Absolutely. Yeah, he's a special cat and a hell of a sweet guy. I've dealt with a lot of rock stars in my day, and then I've been lucky enough to know some really nice rock stars. He is an exception to the extreme in this case. He is just a genuine sweetheart of a guy. Enjoy him very much, and his wife's extraordinarily talented and lovely as well. Let me ask you, what made you decide to? I know you like you mentioned, and I think everybody in my set here. I've got my producer, my director is an extraordinary drummer with a band called Arsa.
Yes, yes, he is.
I mean, he's ridiculous. You get a chance to look up the band Arsa on Spotify. Oh my God, it's crazy, his drum abilities, and they're kind of a Celtic talented metal thing that's like wow. And then Kyle over here is a guitarist and a music lover, and I fumble around with guitars and basses and things, and we all have that. It seems to be a lot of us that come from that. And I know you have you're a pretty happening proficient bass player in your own right. What got you into being a drum tech? I'm trying to figure out the linkage.
Okay, so the production company I worked at in the early 2000s, they had at the time they were the largest backline house north of San Francisco, LA, or SIR San Francisco. So they had a massive backline department. Their PA department, but they could probably do like maybe 2 stages of 5,000 people, and then a bunch of smaller little rigs. So they're more of a low mid-sized PA company, and then a massive backline company. When I started there, everybody wanted to be a sound guy, which is typical. Everybody wants to be a sound guy. Nobody ever wants to be the glory of mixing out a big show, and nobody really wanted to deal with the backline. And at the time, I was trying to save my ears for being a studio guy, which being a drum tech took care of that in a hurry. And I figured I would just kind of like, I'll learn the back half of the building, because they had, a dozen drum kits, a couple hundred keyboards, all that fun stuff. And I would just kind of pick through stuff on a regular basis. Like, I'm not a drummer. I can play a couple beats, but I'm a really, really crappy drummer. That's saying, that's giving me way too much credit. But I had we had a studio we were sending gear out to quite a bit, and apparently I had sent 3 drum kits out in the span of 1 week that I started pre-tuned. I thought that sounded pretty good. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, that sounds okay, I guess. And the producer called back and like a week later and said, who's been sending these drum kits? And I went, well, me. Why? It's like, because they all sound great out of the box. And I was like, oh, thanks. And he was the guy who hooked me up with Ben. Ben was one of his best friends. He goes, I got a guy who needs a tech. Ben was using Greg Keplinger. I don't know if you know Greg. Greg was a Matt Cameron's guy for years.
Yeah,
and Keplinger is like the most amazing studio tech I've ever heard. Like, he will match like a snare drum sound recorded a month ago for a one hit punch in kind of thing. He's like that kind of guy, with different heads. but he's also in high demand, and was an older gentleman at the time. And Ben's like, I need a young guy who can load my drums, in and out of the car. So that was kind of how I ended up with him. But it was just purely like you said, like that, right space, the right time. And the fact that the drums sounded good, I to this day, I still as acoustic drum tech, I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing. Everybody seems happy, but I'm always still like, I always kind of have a little bit of the imposter syndrome going on with that a little bit. Like maybe I shouldn't be here. Even though obviously I do know what I'm doing because I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
With electronics, I'm much more confident that, that I have a good handle on it, but yeah, a long-winded answer, I guess.
No, it was perfect. And let's talk about it. I know you've made a couple upgrades to Rick's kit, and it's clearly one of the most technically involved kits out there. I mean, to make Rick be the badass that he is, there's a lot going on back there, and so I think you're in a slightly unique position to speak to the electronic side of it. What is it that you did to upgrade his kit?
So there's been like, I think 2 other guys who were sort of instrumental in the last, 30 years for like taking Rick's kits to like a quantum leap. And I'm the last guy in that chain who've done like the big leaps. When I started with Rick, he had just got into a computer-based system, like a PC-based system. Before that, he was using like modules and samplers,
Sure.
which are a nightmare as far as I'm concerned. And Rick was not happy with them, but that's with the technology they had at the time. The stuff we were using was good, but it was slightly older technology and didn't give me the option to upgrade stuff. And it was also things that like, it got to the point where I was buying converters on eBay because I couldn't find them anymore, So I had done, just purely out of necessity, I did an upgrade probably 4 or 5 years ago when I did like a complete, system swap on the back end of the system because the gear just did not exist anymore. And we hit the point where we've got 3 touring rigs. So that's 6 systems. You have to have backups. And then I had to build one in this house. And I couldn't rely on old tech anymore. I couldn't rely on something that I couldn't go to Guitar Center or, whatever, if something broke. On the front half of the system, Rick had been with Yamaha maybe about a year or so before I came in, but a lot of the rack, the appearance wise, the hardware was still DW. And that was just basically because it was a custom built rack. And Rick's vendor's always been pretty understanding of like, look, we got to use to make it happen. We don't really care. But I did a new rack system, and that was kind of the big visual change. And then we'd moved him over from full some hybrid acoustics, more pure electronics. Now we're looking at doing another change to new triggers. So I've probably I think at this point the only thing that was there when I came in is the plate that the kit's attached to. His drum kit's all one piece basically. It comes out of a giant box, and it's mounted like a 6x6 plate, and that's probably the only part that's left over.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was I was probably a bit ambitious, but it at least allowed me to have a really good understanding of the entire rig, because I built the whole dang thing, so I know if something goes haywire, what it is. I'm not tracing any weird cables because I've built every one of those cables. So I know the the fail points. And also, God forbid if we're flying, if we're traveling somewhere and a sea container goes over, give me a credit card and find me a local music shop and an Apple store in a day or so, and I can make a show happen if I had to.
No shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. I wanted to ask you on the personal side. I know you're down with photography. I think we share that. I tend to, back in the day, have taken a lot of photographs of show sites and gigs I've worked, and I know it's a passion for you. Talk about your love for photography.
That's my main thing when I'm not roadieing. I used to bring a guitar out on the road, like a lot of techs do. Just days off and to play in my hotel room, and that got to be kind of a pain in the butt. So I got a camera one year, just I got to go down there, because I would wait for the first 3 songs to make sure that everybody on stage was happy and said, cool, I'm gonna head down, shoot for a while, come back up, for encore stuff, and then we'll go back down and shoot that. And I got, I got some good shots, I think, overall, but at it's been like a pretty long process. I think moving to LA really helped out. I lived with, or next door to a couple of fashion designers and got into shooting fashion, which is probably oddly enough, it's kind of like my favorite thing to shoot, for, you know, being a black t-shirt and shorts kind of guy. Fashion's a lot of fun. I could care less about like wearing it myself, obviously, but, as a photographer, it's a blast. I don't really do a lot of concert photography anymore, mainly because it's a pretty, you gotta be hungry to do that. It's a pretty aggressive amount of, you know, people who want to get into that. But yeah, it's like, I shoot everything in the sun. I mean, I do everything from, you know, crazy weird fetish stuff to, you know, water drops in you know, colored water and dropped in water kind of in tanks and stuff. And it just, whatever interests me that week is what I'll do. And I have that thing where I find an idea, I chase it, you know, get the image I want, and then I do a 90-degree turn and go find something else for a while. Doesn't really work great for making money at it, because, you know, you never really know what my interests are going to lie that week or that month, but it definitely keeps me busy and it's fun. And it doesn't rely on anybody other than me, which is great. And then when you're traveling, I can have my backpack and I can be anywhere and do something for me on the days off, which is needed. For anybody who travels a lot, you know, like you have to have your own outlets. It's that or sit in the pub all day long.
No, I totally get it. And it sounds like you got a passion behind that. And I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, keeping your head good when you're touring the world and having some other outlets that aren't just the tour. I always enjoyed you know, checking the architecture and snapping shots. You know, on the down days, it's a big plus that goes along with the nomad quality of being a touring you know, roadie. And so I can completely relate. We did the Big Love thing together here at Change Gears a little bit. With Rick and his lovely wife and the band and some. Well, I guess we had Clayton. What was it?
Clayton Q.
Clayton Q. Yep. Sweetheart of a guy, really nice.
Yeah.
So nice.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And Danielle Bloom, his gal, they came and performed, and some great contributors, Billy Idol and the like. I know this thing's going out, airing on January 23rd, I believe, on Nugs TV. Is that correct, Kyle?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, brother. What are you hoping for that? What in your heart would you like to see that do?
Well, first off, I hope that one's successful. I hope they get a fair amount of tickets sold for that one and, you know, get some money. And I hope long term, I hope it kind of turns into a more regular thing. I know that Rick and Lauren have, you know, along with your brother, you know, and a few other people have some grand plans. Mm-hmm. You know, I would like to see, you know, a better spotlight shine on our industry, you know, shown on our industry as far as what's going on. And I know that a couple days ago, was it Mike Strickland from Bandit did his speech in front of the Senate, which was great. And which was helpful. I think I don't think a lot of people understand how truly bad things are for our industry right now, and for the people in it. I'm hoping that the show will help give more people understand, you know, a better idea of what's going on in our little neck of the woods, and provide some money for people who need it. I feel very fortunate that I've had to, you know, not a lot of work this year, but enough work. You know, Rick has had enough stuff for me to do where I've been able to keep a roof over my head and keep some groceries. And, you know, strangely enough, like my credit rating hasn't gone to crap this year, which is nice. My credit rating improved last month. I don't know how.
Mine too, actually. Yeah. That's funny you say that. Mine went up a couple points.
I've got that twice in the last 2 months. Where your rating went up. I'm like, how is that possible?
Well, I think
I'm not going to question it, you know. But
gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah, but I think, you know, and I know a lot of people who are really hurting right now in our industry. So I'm hoping that they can raise some money. I think this is going through what Music Cares, I think, is the organization they're working with.
I thought it was Sweet Relief.
Sweet Relief. Yeah. I think Sweet Relief is part of Music Cares. How it works. I can't remember how it works, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping that they can raise some decent dough and just get people, you know, keyed into the idea that, you know, the people who put these shows on they love need help, you know, even if it's just, you know, some you know, mental help, checking in on people. I mean, I think that's probably the hardest thing that I've run into since, you know, last year, and probably for you guys as well, is like not being around your tour brothers and sisters. Like, I mean, my last actual show before the one we just, that when we filmed was a full year ago. It was November 4th, I believe, of last year.
Yeah, that's too long. That's too long.
It was so bizarre doing the taping. I mean, it's taping, so it's not really a show, and there's basically just us there. But of like trying to get my gig brain working again. It's like you guys were talking before I came on about the getting back into shape of loading trucks. I'm thinking like just getting back at mental shape of going, oh yeah, I have to remember how to do all this. Even down to the smallest things of like, I gotta make sure there's a towel out for the drummer on stage and some water and all that kind of little small things. And
well,
pacing myself
and the details, the small things.
Yeah. So,
and you're not wrong. It's going to take a minute. I think it's me and Kyle were talking about kind of the physical side of it, but you're absolutely right. There's a mental component that goes with that physicality. To be on your game, and when you're rolling around with somebody like a Def Leppard, like a Rick Allen, that's the top of the game right there. And I know technically you guys, I'm not sure how long the tour was supposed to run, but I know you guys were supposed to be out with Motley Crue and Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, and Joan, and Jet, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking to Rick, and he said that's been postponed until this coming summer, and hopefully you guys will be doing that again soon.
I am so hoping that that happens. I think from everything we've been hearing news wise, it's looking pretty good. I guess Moderna got their authorization I think today, so there's another vaccine to be rolling out, and it's looking really, really promising. So I'm hoping we can get the big shows open back up. I mean, small shows too, because I think a lot of these clubs and stuff are desperate for vax to come through. But I am really, really, really hoping that the summer rolls around, because I don't know like how any organization can handle 2 years and not work on like just the keep yourself sharp, keep yourself interested. That's going to be it's a long time to go without doing a gig. I was talking with a few of the crew guys. We have a running text chain we've had for years, and we do our Zoom chats about once a month to kind of catch up, and we're already kind of pushing for like a lot of rehearsal time this year of like pushing the band like we need like a month just to knock the dust off and make sure we know all our changes and remember the show. Like, so because I don't want to go out there and I don't want to embarrass myself, but I really don't want to embarrass Rick. I don't want to embarrass the band.
The Def Leppard brand is not to be. I'm sure that they would understand that the necessity for a little bit longer rehearsal period before you guys go out. I can't imagine they wouldn't get that completely.
They're into that.
Their own good. So I'm sure we'll be seeing you guys out there again real soon. I was thinking that was going to be one of the best. We had Brad Maddox was going to be out on the. One of our guys here in the shop that was going to be out front for Motley Crue. So, a lot of people are not working as a result of this thing. And we really hope that this all comes back sooner than later, that some of this new leadership and new medicines will kind of tighten this all up and get us back to work as soon as possible. I got to tell you, it's an absolute pleasure, a treat to have you on this show. We enjoyed you a great deal with the times we've got to work with you. You know your job well. You're a good man. And thank you for coming out tonight, my brother.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Hopefully we'll do some more shows again soon.
I would like
actual shows.
Yeah. For me, anytime you got the guys with instruments and microphones, it's a show. I don't really care if it's in a barn, if it's in a beach, or it's in a stadium. It's a show is a show. And it's mostly for me, my take has always been because I get to work with you guys. I get to work with my friends, and that's the treat for me. So I look forward to that coming sooner than later. And until then, you take very good care of yourself, my brother.
You too.
All right, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, listen, we really appreciate our friends in this thing, and we really do it because we love our friends, and this is a way for us to, using this show as a vehicle allows us to get together, play with our gear, hang out with our friends, keep in touch, and send out a love. Interesting. I want you to remember to reach out to resources out there, like we mentioned, Sweet Relief, Raven Drum, Project Resiliency. These are things you can find on the web. And don't forget Big Love Army. That's a sweet page of good, kind people talking about positive things. If you're having a kind of a bad day, go over to Loving Hands for Stagehands. My brother's got a group with a couple help of our other brothers, Bob Power and John Del Rio and some others, Sue Kearney, Shauna Hall, all long-term players in the game. They get it. They understand that some of us are struggling. Some of the folks in our industry have some days that don't go so well, and there's some resources there to be found at that page. So check them out. They might be able to help you out. We want to send love out to our families and, wish everybody out there happy holidays and Merry Christmas. I want to send a quick shout out to Susie Dugan for reaching out to us. She's a lovely woman, and Kyle's love interest. She's a good girl.
Oh, she's such a sweetheart.
You're lucky, man. And I am equally lucky in my life that way. And all of our loyals, the Pat O'Douls and the Jorge Aguados and Charlie Ricky and Noah the Beard Tanner. We love you guys for sticking in with us. We always kind of trying to...
Oh, man. Hold on.
What do you got?
So, Noah.
What about him?
That poor Floridian is stuck in Massachusetts right now. And those fools got 40 inches.
40? Oh, I thought it was going to be 28.
No.
Oh, for the difference between 28 and 40 is a nightmare. And 28 was already bad enough.
I'm barely on Facebook, but that came up on my feed, and I got a little giggle. I'm from the East Coast, so I know.
Giggle? He just had a baby. The man's away from his
laugh.
This is this guy's got this cooking show called Cooking with Mush, which is his daughter. It's so cute, man. And he's just a sweetheart of a man. And if he's not with his family, my heart goes out with him right now. But he is a man that provides for his family. And he puts himself out there, and it must have been some work-related thing that caused him to go up the coast.
Yeah, it must be.
And so our heart goes out with you, Noah. You're a brother, man. I hope that gets sussed out soon enough and that you're okay. Thank you for all you do for us. I know you make it back home and to your kids, your wonderful kids soon. Hey, guys. Next week, it's December 24th is our next show, and we got a special treat for you. It kind of stays in the same line or vein that we were talking about with Rick stuff. We got... our dear friend Bernie Broderick, he's a loudspeaker designer legend. I mean, he's really one of the true pioneers, forefront, top guys in the game. He's a design for Adamson, L Acoustics, EAW, some of their most incredible rigs that we use in our business. He's coming out. I kind of captured him. He was going to take this beautiful rig that he had made for Rick Allen and Rick Allen's project that he's doing for Rick. And I said, oh, no, you can't take that out. I want to do a show with you about it, and you can show your wares and show what you've come up with, because he made these beautiful speaker towers and center channels.
Incredible.
Yeah, really cool stuff. So next week we got a Christmas present for you. It's the wonderful one and only Bernie Broderick. He's going to show some cool stuff that he's designed, and I think it's going to be a really interesting thing that you guys will enjoy. So check us out. That's next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Remember, in this trying time, all you can really do is be a good person, be good to the people around you, and keep your head about you. So we got you in our hearts, and we appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. In this case, about an hour and 10 minutes of your time. We'll hope to see you again next week at 7 p.m. on Thursday. Until then, please take good care of yourselves. Good night. Thank you, Mikey.
Sweet.
Brother, how'd that go, Jeffrey?